Ask him. You got the name.
We just
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You guys are tuned into PTV watching World this morning alongside Shazad and Maan.
Yes.
Earlier we were talking about cultural exchange program with the people from FACE, and then at the same time, you know, as Maha very correctly and aptly mentioned, that we are going to do something which is in line with Ramadan as well. Now, do you want to say something, or I should keep on going?
I mean, it depends how much you want to say.
Yeah, all right, just a
say
bit.
something and then I'll say
Just a
something.
bit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to our team over here and then our producers, our bosses, that, you know, our struggles, you know, probably all of those fruits which were hanging on the trees for so long have been ripe. And now we are going to start a new segment for this holy month. And we're going to do something very interesting and something which will probably be very educating for all those people who are out there.
Exactly, and you know, especially for those who are not aware of the beauty of this, you know, the religious month and the beauty of the Quran, and we're going to be sharing that. We're going to be translating. We're going to be discussing it. We're going to, you know, find out the beauty and the messages that are within each part.
Yes.
So what we've done is, but the thing is, I just want to mention before we talk about what we're saying is that, you know, this whole month is about, you know, tolerance and peace and love and kind of empathy and realizing other people's struggles as well and realizing your own blessings.
Yeah.
And, you know, within the Quran, you know, there's a lot of people who like to take a more, you know, there's more aggressive look at it, but there's also a lot of beauty and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of understanding and knowledge within it. So
Yes.
that's what we're going to be exploring, especially after what's happened on the weekend. I think it's really important to talk about the peaceful stuff within religions, and that's what we're going to be highlighting.
Yeah, and it has been happening for so long as well, and people have been trying to cope up with that. But then at the same time, so what we have done is that every day there's going to be a 15 or 20-minute segment where we'll try to cover 2 parts of Quran at a time, which means that 2 paras as well. And then we'll try to disseminate all of that information which our very apt guests will have. And then at the same time, the importance of those teachings and then the variability in which situation you are and how can we probably look forward to that particular teaching.
Exactly.
So for that particular reason, we have got somebody who's very amazing
Yes.
with words as well.
Exactly, and you know, the interpretations are all there, like we're going to be using different, and we're going to have it all for discussion. So we've been very lucky to be joined by a student of Islam. He is also the president of psychiatry, which is a wonderful combination. And sorry?
Not president,
Sorry,
resident.
Resident. Sorry, guys.
Perfectly
My boss
okay.
has to kill me.
That's who
Resident. So it's
Yeah.
early in the morning. I was going to...
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Yousuf
Walaikum
Raza.
assalam.
Assalamualaikum, I'm sorry.
Walaikum assalam. It's
We said it so
okay.
quickly, I had a pee. Anyway.
As long as my bosses are not hearing it. I'm
Even I
not
heard
making
like
any
that.
claims to presidency.
Even he heard it.
Even I heard it like that. So
There
it
you
might
go.
probably be just like that.
No,
It's
no,
all
it's
right.
my
So,
mistake.
okay,
Yes.
teachings of Quran,
Inshallah.
and you know, tell us about it. What are we going to do? How are we going to cover it?
It is a daunting task to cover like 2 juz or 2 separas as we know them, 2 parts of the Quran, because that's a lot of segments. As most of you know, the Quran is 30 parts, 30 separas as we're used to calling them. And to talk about, to summarize that, what I'll try to do inshallah is choose one passage from those 2 paras which I feel are relevant and something that I can talk about easily, and that sort of gives a comprehensive message. So we'll have those ayats, I'll mention those, their translation, and most importantly what I'm looking for is how they are relevant to our lives.
Okay.
I'm a doctor in the 21st century, as a Pakistani, in a Pakistani community. I have problems that I face as an individual, as a professional, as a Pakistani, as a human being. Again, how does the Quran relate to, for example, whatever happened over the weekend? And what are the instructions? What does the Quran say about that? How is it being misused? What is the potential of religion being abused? What are the safeguards that the Quran came with to make sure that would not happen, but how those parts are ignored and all of what is going on in the world is going on? So we would want to see that how is it relevant? What does it mean to me? Let's just keep it very simple. How is it relevant for me?
Okay, I think then what we can do is that probably for all those people who are out there, if you've got questions, if you want to ask something,
We'll tell you which part.
Yeah, and then, you know, from tomorrow onwards, it'll be first part and then the second part of the first part of the second para as well. So what you can do is that you can probably write us to your questions on our Facebook fan page, and then we'll ask you know, the guy over here, and then at the same time, or the guest over here, at the same time, that, you know, what does it mean and how will it actually imply onto your life?
Exactly.
Or probably the circumstances you're living in, because we'll try to cover people from all walks of life, not just doctors anchors or, you know, probably our producers.
And human beings, like, you know,
Yeah.
people walking down the street. But this is one thing, and this was interesting because that's what some people asked me yesterday when I was discussing what we're doing on the show. The interpretation, you know, that's when people get a bit, you know, reserved. So they're like, well, what interpretation are you using? So, you know, when we're discussing this, how are we going to make sure that it's universal, that, you know, we're not projecting our own ideas and views on life into the interpretation?
When we talk about interpretation, it's next to impossible that the interpreter's own life and his own biases do not become incorporated.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
This is
exactly,
this is
that's how I
through
look at
process.
religion.
That's like a verbal disclaimer as well.
Well, that's a religion, isn't it?
Yes.
That's with everything that you're talking about. Anything and everything. If, for example, I'm a psychiatrist, and psychiatry is a practical, I'm a student, I'm a resident in psychiatry. It's a practical field that deals with patients, but no two psychiatrists are the same.
But
If they're studying the same thing,
Yeah.
they're prescribing the same medication, but the way they approach their patients,
So different.
their
Do you
have
individuality
some-
comes into
Do
it.
you have some notes written right over there somewhere? Because the moment you start speaking, you're like, okay, I'm a cheat.
You're being no.
But at the same
Thinking,
time,
reflecting.
Yeah.
you whatever you said, I think I'm going to agree to that, and that is perfect, totally. But then half of the time we do have these problems that there are disagreements in between all of those things which we deduce out of the teachings of Quran as well. Now, how do you think that we'll be able to do justice with that? Because that is very essential, and that can probably, you know, lead us to quite a lot of trouble.
Sure. See, when I say that there are individual influences on interpretation, that does not take away from that fact that there's no objectivity, that there is no set standard. Those standards are there, and how to interpret the Quran, how to talk about the Quran, and we try to remain, just like when you talk about science, there is objectivity in science, but there is also subjectivity. There is those objective realities that are out there and they're real. And then there's my way of looking at them that also has an influence, impact on what they are. So that's true for the Quran as well. There's that objective standard, and we try to make sure that we retain to that. We're not breaking away or coming up with something completely different, a new interpretation. Nobody's ever done this before. We're not doing any of those things. We're sticking true.
That's a shame. You know, that's what we're here for, not. But anyway, so now going forward, because, you know, it's all about the social aspect of it all. And, you know, can you do justice to the Quran, you know, by just taking out one or two ayats from each supara?
Which relates to our life, our
So,
lifestyle.
We'll try
How
to do
easy is it to find? Because that's going to be very difficult finding one that's relevant.
I'll try
every
to
day.
keep it a little more than one or two ayats.
Okay.
It'll probably like at least a ruku, one passage.
Exactly,
if
because we
can
have enough
muster
time,
that. So we'll try to talk about that. And again, I do in Ramadan, we do this program in the night where we are do the translation of the entire Sipara. That is to be recited in Taraweeh, so that people who are going to stand in Taraweeh, they have something of an idea that we're going. So we need to get over this just ritualistic connection, which does not have any impact or relevance in the rest of my life.
Or probably you cannot understand.
Exactly.
what you're listening
Perfect.
to.
I'm so glad you said that, because this was the next question I had. Is about the fact that, you know, when you read the Arabic, because it is old as well, you know, there are words that are not used anymore. There's multiple meanings for one word. So when people are reciting the Quran, you know, in Arabic, people within Pakistan or, you know, who don't speak Arabic, they struggle. How important is it to actually read the translation and actually understand it? Because, you know, it's more about reading the original text, more so than knowing what is said in English or in Urdu.
And then I would love to add to that as well, and that is that whenever you probably read the translation of Quran, what happens is that it's very hard for you to grasp all of that information and apply it on your own life or your circumstances. So how are we going to do that as well?
Again, when you look at the Quran, obviously you have scholarship and their opinions and their interpretations as to how they present it to you. They bridge the gap between really us and 14 centuries ago Arabic Quran that was revealed, and the tradition has been safeguarded for all these years, for all these centuries, and we take from that as much as we possibly can. And as far as interpreting and understanding it in English and not just merely sticking to Arabic, it is not only important, it's indispensable. to our
Or whichever
relationship.
language you
Okay.
speak.
Whichever language, exactly, whichever language, to understand it. Otherwise, it's just a very ritualistic it's just an association that we're just very proud of, and it doesn't have any practical implication on our lives, and that's actually very hypocritical, to be honest.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what we need to stop in this month as well, and then practice that for the rest of the
Yeah, and
year.
thank you for saying that as well, because you know I still remember when I was a child, and you know when I've actually read the Quran twice or thrice in Arabic, and then my mum came up with the idea that you were going to read the translation as well. Well, I probably used to run around the streets then, but then you know she would actually hold me from my ear and would make me sit right in front of the Qari Sahib as well, and then I read it. But then I still remember, I've read the whole Quran alongside its translation, but it didn't work out that way because it was so hard for me to understand, or probably the teacher who was there, I still respect him, but he couldn't really tell me that how as a kid Quran has got teachings for me as well.
And also the words, some of the translations use like thou, thee, must, thus, dost. It's like, no, come on, we need some modern English now. So that's also another problem.
See, the problem is not just with the language as to how that's evolved.
Yeah.
Our problems have evolved.
Oh, yes.
As I go to school, I'm doing my A-levels, I'm doing my medicine. These are things that weren't happening once upon a time,
Yeah.
right? And for the people who are teaching me this, for them to be unaware completely of what's going on, then yes, if they're the only ones interpreting and explaining the Quran for us, they may be giving us the Arabic part, that this is what the nuances in the Arabic and the meanings and all of the interpretation in the hadith narrative, but how are they going to relate it to the context that is irrelevant to them, that they haven't been exposed to, that they haven't experienced?
Okay, so before we, wind up, very quickly, look into the camera, talk to all of those people who are going to listen to you for the next 16, 70 days, and inshallah, in future as well. So what are we going to do from tomorrow onwards?
From tomorrow onwards, inshallah, we're going to be taking a passage from the Quran, and we're going to be seeing how it's related to my personal life, to my family life, to my society life, to my professional life, to me as a human being.
And to them as well.
Yeah, no, me, I will,
Yeah.
funny.
So now we are a
man.
team, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
zoom out so that we can tell them that, for this month of Ramadan and
Yes.
inshallah for future as well. We are as a team, we'll come as a team
Fun.
and then we'll share information and disseminate education. I think that's what I'll say this time, because a lot of times we overuse this word known as information.
Yeah, this, I don't know if it's information.
That's
I've got
about
blind.
it. That's about it. Thank you very
Blind.
much, Yousuf, for
problem
joining
at all.
hands with us, and I think it'll bring us quite a lot of blessings, and we do need a lot of prayers. So everybody who's fasting or who's not, please remember us in your prayers. Me, Maha, Yousuf Bhai, all of our cameramen, all of the people in the master control room, all our bosses, because this is the month of blessings. Please
Exactly.
share them with us as well.
Exactly, and so I hope you took something from the show today. I hope you enjoyed the first half. It was started on a very sad note, but we have to go forward. We have to keep living, and we have to make sure that we have to prevent these things happening from the future. Like, these tragedies are so preventable. We just need to start listening and caring for the people around us. So with that, do log on to our Facebook fan page,
Which is with the name of World This Morning.
our Twitter page,
World This Morning without a G.
our Daily Motion page,
World This Morning.
and
World This
YouTube.
Morning.
and the repeat of that.
5 past midnight.
Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.